Live already? Okay. Um, Adam and Eve. That's the topic. Paper 74. Um, 828. Topics from the Urantia book. I mean, to me, the most interesting things on this planet. Um, so I thought, the Lucifer Rebellion has to be the most interesting thing. This would be the second most interesting thing, would be the default of Adam and Eve. Um, so I want to read too. So Adam and Eve arrives on Urantia from the year AD 1934. $37,848 ago. It was in mid-season when the garden was in the height of bloom that they arrived. Um, I don't know. I think before this they talk about material sons and daughters. Um, these are the biologic uplifters. I'm just going to speak about what I remember, terms I remember about Adam and Eve. Um, the original pair of Adam and Eve, there's one original pair for each system. Um, 100 systems per constellation, 100 constellations. The Adam and Eve, the material sons, the highest material sons, how's that sound? But they're still seemingly pretty much equal with mortals in a sense. I'll just skip around. I'll talk about that. Um, they say that I'm just going to really just skip around. Um, and Adam and Eve um, stays on a planet for until that planet achieves light and life, uh, relative perfection in terms of goodness, in terms of that world, and then they leave that world and they go through. Seems to me what they're saying is they go through the exact same progression that a mortal would go through, at least from the system forward. Maybe from the universe capital forward. The universe capital for Nebadon would be called Salvington. But from that point forward, apparently, any material son and daughter, except for the original pair on a system, they stay there probably interminably, until at least the grand universe is settled in light and life. Um, the grand universe being the current creation outside of Havona Paradise. Anyway, I want to stick to Adam and Eve here as far as the topic. But so um, an original pair is put on each system capital. This is done solely by the creator son of the universe. So he's creating a male and a female. Whereas before, it was the creator son in liaison with the divine minister or creative spirit who would create the higher sons in a local universe. But this time, the creator son is doing it by himself. And this pair, the original Adam and Eve on the system capital, this system being called Satania, Satania, are the biologic uplifters. That's what they call them. As in, the most important thing about Adam and Eve is, physically speaking, they are as good or great as a human form body can get. And when they bring themselves and they create children on an earth, there's a very much a biologic, physical upliftment to the all the physical beings on their physical form through the intermarriage of their children with mortals. Um, they don't really seem to even stress the fact that Adam and Eve are mentally, intellectually, and character-wise much greater than certainly an evolutionary mortal, an average evolutionary mortal. Um, yeah, but obviously that is also the case. But um, material sons and daughters. So from the original pair on Satania, these two beings have children. Their children become eligible to go to a mortal sphere, an evolutionary mortal sphere. So for this particular world, um, they say something like every eligible Adam and Eve applied, which could be hundreds or whatever. They might even give a total number of how many applied, hundreds, thousands, whatever the number is. The Melchizedeks, who are in charge of these things, decided upon the pair that came to this planet 37,000 years ago, 38,000 years ago or so. So the arrival of Adam and Eve. Okay, we know what the Bible story says. Pretty short, and it gives its take on Adam and Eve. At least we have something in terms of the Bible. Before the Urantia book, at least there was something in terms of information. So we know what the Bible says. This book is much more extensive and gives its truth. I mean, this is everything about this book or religion or spirituality is a matter of faith and belief. Does it resonate with me or you or anyone? If so, that becomes your my belief system. So I have my belief system. The Urantia book is a large part of my belief system. But there's no proof to anything. By and large, more or less, there's no proof to most anything in terms of religion or spirituality. So the arrival of Adam and Eve. I'll just read some. Adam and Eve fell asleep on Jerusalem, and when they awakened in the Father's temple on Urantia, in the presence of the mighty throng assembled to welcome them, they were face to face with two beings of whom they had heard much, Van and his faithful associate Amidon. These two heroes of the Calgat, let's see. Soon after their awakening, Adam and Eve were escorted to the formal reception on the great mount to the north of the temple. Adam and Eve were invested with kingly robes on this occasion, the time of their formal induction into world rulership. Then was heard the archangel's proclamation, and the broadcast voice of Gabriel decreed the second judgment roll call of Urantia and the resurrection of the sleeping survivors of the second dispensation of grace and mercy on 606 of Satania. They describe these periodic resurrections for evolutionary planets. I'm going to say what I remember about it, other places in the book. When there is a epical revelation, a major revelation, the Urantia book defines 5. The first one would have been the arrival of the planetary prince Calgastia. This is the second one. And at these times, everyone who died prior to this epical revelation is raised from the dead if they haven't been already. So they have special dispensations where periodically they will raise certain numbers of beings from the dead to the mansion world that they're going to. Um, for those who are not raised from the dead prior to an epical revelation, at the time of an epical revelation, everyone who has passed away, who is going to be raised from the dead, is risen from the dead. Um, and in my mind, either on this earth or on the first mansion world. But being raised from the dead on this earth is my belief. That's not what the Ranch book says. So, quick and short, man. I'm just giving some thumbnail outline, something about it. Um, all right, so I'm gonna talk about what I remember and how it goes from there. Um, I like the line, their first day, it was very, no, the day that Melchizedek's left, very quiet and lonely. And I don't know, let me see if I can find that one real fast. I found it. So after Adam and Eve are installed here, they go about the business of setting themselves up. They say that Adam and Eve did actually do the walk, or at least Adam did the walk around with evolutionary mortals that were already here and started naming different animals and things of this nature. The Thus ended the first day of Adam and Eve on isolated Urantia, the confused planet of the Caligastia betrayal, and they walked and talked far into the night, their first night on Earth, and it was so lonely. I think the Melchizedeks have already left at this point. After the installation of Adam and Eve, there were like 12 Melchizedek receivers up until the time, from the time of, I'm going to say, I'm not positive about this, but I think from the time of the Caligastia betrayal until the time of Adam and Eve, which covers a couple 100,000 years plus, um, there was a Melchizedek receivership, maybe 12 Melchizedeks sort of taking care of the world. They mention a man named Van who comes from the time period of Caligastia, who was kept alive by the tree of life for like over a couple 100,000 years while he built the first garden for Adam and Eve, helped build it as the generations of mortals came and went, lived and died. Um, so, um, okay, now the situation is Adam and Eve are here, but so is Caligastia. Um, in full power, more or less, in terms of what he wants to do and how he acts and things he does. So days go by for the um, Adam and Eve. Um, I think a couple 100 years go by. They have many children. Their children have children. Um, so um, but after a couple 100 years of Adam and Eve being in the first garden, doing what they're doing, Adam and Eve are staying at the exact same appearance, age-wise, body-wise. They're staying at the exact same appearance that they had when they arrived here by utilizing the tree of life. An actual, I think, I suppose it's actual. I think it was a fruit, an actual fruit that came off this one particular tree that only kept Adam and Eve at the same um, at at the same in the same looking the same as when they arrived body wise, physically speaking, staying the same as they were body wise. This tree of life only worked for Adam and Eve. Their children age and die. Maybe the early generations of the children live longer than average. They might say something about that. I forget a little bit, but anyway, a couple hundred years go by, and I put in the description the temptation of Eve. So, so we know the Bible story. Um, I don't know if I can really tie in the idea of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil versus what actually happened, which is Eve was impregnated by a mortal, not her husband Adam, in a plan to have a child who could rule in a different section and help uplift the world. Um, all right, so on this particular point, um, there's got to be a lot more to the story because there's no way Eve and Adam don't understand that if they cheat on their spouse, they're going to be in default. They got to know this before they arrive at this planet. I mean, this has to be something that's real easily and well known. So, how Eve could meet privately with certain humans and be manipulated by Caligastia into having sexual intercourse with one of the humans and having a child outside of her marriage, how Eve could even theoretically fathom this as a possible action that would be okay is inconceivable to me. It makes absolutely no sense. There has to be a lot more to the story. Eve had to know real easily that if she has sexual relations with someone other than Adam, the couple is in default, like automatically. Like there's so so I don't know. I mean that's the story, and I believe the story. I believe that Eve did this. Why exactly? What was the exact thinking? What's going on? There has to be more to the story, but that's all the Ranch book presents about it. So that was the default. It wasn't um, eating an apple from the tree. Uh, they mentioned the word citron in here. Let me just look that up. For for the Jews in the time of Jesus, on the last day of a feast at that time in that time period, at daybreak the pilgrims assembled from all parts of the city, each carrying in the right hand a sheaf of myrtle, etc., while in the left hand each one carried a branch of the paradise apple, the citron, or the forbidden fruit. So I'll figure that the citron is the fruit that's identified in the Bible somehow. In English, it becomes the apple. But the default of Adam and Eve had nothing to do with that. Doesn't really have anything to do with this idea of a knowledge of the tree of good and evil, knowledge of good and evil. Adam and Eve had full knowledge of good and evil and were extremely advanced intellectually, mentally, in all ways, as far as understanding truth and goodness and God and things of this nature. So it wasn't about knowledge; it had absolutely nothing to do with knowledge. Um, but that's the little story that is in the Bible. Um, so it is what it is. But because of Eve's infidelity, shortly thereafter, um, they were found in default by those who make such decisions, those um, rulers of this planet, whatever, this system, who make these decisions that they were in default, made that decision that they're in default. I don't know. They probably tell a little bit more about it, but anyway, um, it was only after more than 100 years of effort on Urantia that this might have taken place. Might not even been a couple hundred years. Um, okay, so Adam and Eve have to leave the first garden. All this information is in the Urantia book. There's papers that explain all this if anyone's interested in it. But I'll just say what I remember about it, try to read some. Um, Adam and Eve leave the first garden. They establish a second garden. At this point, Adam and Eve are not continuing on uh, in the same appearance that they had when they arrived on this planet. At this point, they're beginning to age. They do not have access to the tree of life. And I think that's where we get I think they live to be 800, 900, whatever the number is. And so that part is sort of in the Bible, I think. Um, but Adam and Eve establish a second garden, continue to have progeny. Adam and Eve, Adam um, they say that a tremendous number of women were fertilized by Adam's sperm. Now, exactly how they did this or how they went about it, I don't know that they exactly say. Um, but so the idea of a harem started here with Adam impregnating. I mean, they probably had the scientific knowledge to do it without sexual intercourse. I don't know, but anyway, it's probably a little like if I read the paragraph, I might have a better idea about it. Doesn't matter. Many women were impregnated with Adam's sperm and then had children that were superior to the average evolutionary human. This is where we get blonde hair, blue eyes, things of that nature. Before Adam and Eve, it was black hair, black eyes. Um, I think for all the colored races that I mentioned before, the six colored races that existed, I think it was all black hair, black eyes until Adam and Eve, as far as colors of hairstyle and eye color. Um, so Adam and Eve have children, their children have children, and they start to interbreed amongst humans. And that happened a long time ago, right? 38,000 years ago to the present. Um, Eve, Eve's child that she had with a mortal other than her husband Adam, they give the name Cain, just like in the Bible, and and they say in this book Cain did kill Abel, over similar to what the Bible says, something about offerings. Um, Cain showed some sincerity in terms of his own life, was given a thought adjuster, um, eventually went to live in another part of the world and did good things, they say. I think his firstborn was named Seth, and they say that Seth was the first being to actually leave this world without physically dying, in terms of advanced spiritual development. So there's a plan in that, right? That whoever Seth was, um, there's more to the story. That this Seth person um, was a priest, I think they say, and He lived a life such that he fused in terms of perfectly fulfilling God's will. So obviously, why, how, who, what, there's a little more to the story than what the Ranch book presents. But, the Ranch book itself can only present a thumbnail sketch, an outline of the big truth. And that's what it does. Um, so, yeah, so Cain departed for the land of Nod, east of the second Eden. He became a great leader among one group of his father's people and did, to a certain degree, blah, 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 do well. Oh, I'm sorry, not Seth. Wait a minute. Cain married Ramona and their first son, Enoch. I think it was Enoch was the first being to fuse. Okay. I think Seth is mentioned in here in some capacity. The name Seth, whoever, whatever, it doesn't matter. So Adam's first son was named Adamson. I think is right. So Eve's first son, the first daughter of the Adam and Eve pair would have been called Eveson. And I believe Adamson and Eveson married and had children. This is how it was done. Um, I'll read this because I mentioned it earlier. The religious rulers or priesthood originated with Seth, the eldest surviving son of Adam and Eve, born in the second garden. Um, I remember one line about shortly after the default of Adam and Eve, the declared default of Adam and Eve, something about um, they wanted to utilize the tree of life, but there was an angel of some kind, I think a seraphim in charge of that tree at that point, and said, "No, you may not. The judge rebuke you." There might be a line like that in the book. Um, Adam and Eve finished out their life in the second garden. They were vegans. They were raw vegans in terms of their diet. And so were the first couple generations of the violet people, they're called, as far as the seventh color, as far as humans are concerned. The violet color, they were vegans, at least the first couple generations. Um, all right, here's the thing about Adam. Adam's impregnation of other women. I'll read it. After becoming established in the second garden on the Euphrates, Adam elected to leave behind as much of his life plasm as possible to benefit the world after his death. Accordingly, Eve was made the head of a commission of 12 on race improvement, and before Adam died, this commission had selected 1,682 of the highest type of women on Urantia, and these women were impregnated with the Adamic life plasm. Their children all grew up to maturity except 112, so that the world in this way was benefited by the addition of 1,570 superior men and women. And generations continued after that. The death of Adam and Eve. So it happened, I guess, real quick. Okay, so Adam was 530 years when he died. I believe Eve died before him, so she was not as old. Adam and Eve are part of. I'm going to just say I'm not going to try and talk about this much, but there's like a council of 24 planetary rulers in a sense. acting in the stead of Michael of Nebanon. Adam and Eve are part of those 24 persons, beings, something like that. I'm not going to try and get into that. So, I don't know. I'm trying to think if there's anything else really interesting to me about Adam and Eve and what took place, the real truth. Um, they were very tall, physically speaking, like I said, they were the biologic uplifters. So I could probably look it up. Um, I'll just read the planetary Adam and Eve of Urantia were members of the senior core of material suns on Jerusalem, being jointly number 14,311, Jerusalem being the system capital. They belonged to the third physical series and were a little more than 8 feet in height. What I said earlier about every Adam and Eve eligible wanted to do this, and it was a tremendous number. Um, Jointly number 14,311, right? So another paragraph says, when the proclamation was issued calling for volunteers for the mission of Adamic adventure on Urantia, the entire senior corps of Material and Sons volunteered. The Melchizedek examiners, with the approval of Lanaforge, now the system sovereign, and the Most Highs of Edentia, the Most Highs would be the Verondidek sons, the constellation rulers, finally selected the Adam and Eve, who subsequently came to function as the biologic uplifters of Urantia. Like I was saying earlier, they always just kind of say this biologic uplifter idea without saying how advanced they are scientifically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, in goodness and character. They don't seem to stress that. Um, so I'm done. Um, Once again, there are songs to be danced to. So let's see how it goes. Oh, no, 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 no. Should have tested that.